So good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to present on the topic strategies for team development in the non-profit context. So these are the suggested readings. And so to see the outline of the session, we'll begin with the introduction, followed by definitions, then moving on to importance, then the steps for team development. Then we have stages for team development. Then comes the challenges of team development in the nonprofit context. And I'll also be discussing two important studies on team development in the context of community-based development and rural communities. And after that, moving on to the most important aspect of the session, that is the strategies for team development in the nonprofit context. And then a short video on why team development matters. And then we conclude the session. So to begin with, I would like to begin by saying that 21st century has been a critical turning point for many nonprofit organizations because of the significant level of organizational changes. Changes like rapid organizational growth due to huge mergers that are happening and also swallowing competition. And there has also been huge organizational restructuring, particularly related to decentralization of decision-making. And also great emphasis has been given on partnership working and technological changes due to massive improvements in information and communication technology. So in situations like this, teams play a very important role in addressing and adopting to organizational changes and implementing the organizational strategy towards organizational restructuring, and more so in the nonprofit context. So what do we understand from the term team? So a team is a group of people with similar abilities, aptitudes, competencies. Just a minute, this is just covering up. Okay, and aspirations working towards a common goal. Team development is the process of enabling the people in your team or various teams in the organization by empowering them through various strategies so that they work productively to fulfill the organizational duties and goals, thus contributing towards self-development and organizational growth. And coming to the importance of team development in the nonprofit context, employees are the assets of every organization, and more so in the nonprofit context because of limited resources and funds. So the success of nonprofit organizations is greatly influenced by the quality of people in the organization. And a culture of success is significantly tied to high-performing teams, and a very well-developed team can be very fulfilling to employees and can make great accomplishments. And the millennials are the employees of today and the leaders of the future, and they value organizations with a great culture for learning and development. And such an organization can have a competitive advantage in better recruitment and retention rates. And moving to the steps for team development, again, it becomes very important to follow clearly defined steps so that we can systematically move towards building a strong and an effective team. And moving to this, the first important step is the clearly defined team goals, which are very different even from teams to team in the same organization. And identifying of hindrances or barriers for team goals. So every team will have its own hindrances and barriers, which we need to identify so that we can tackle that and move towards achieving the team goals. And once we identify these barriers, it is important to implement various strategies for overcoming these challenges so that we can move towards achieving our goals. And then enabling the achievement of goals. So once the implementation of strategies are done, we need to work towards the achievement of our team goals. So after the stages of steps of team development, the most important aspect when we are discussing the concept of team or team development is the stages of team development, which is very important. And this was propounded by Tuckman in 1975. And so the first stage of any team building or any team development in any organization is the forming stage, which is the stage at which a group of people come together to accomplish a shared purpose. And the next step is the storming stage. As the name indicates, it is a stage which comprises of disagreements about mission, vision, and approaches. And this is where the team members start getting to know each other. And this stage can be categorized by strained relationships and conflicts. And the third stage is the norming stage, where the team has continuously or unconsciously formed working relationships, consciously or unconsciously formed working relationships that enables progress on the team's objectives. And the fourth stage is the most important stage for any team, which is the performing stage, in which relationships, team processes, and team effectiveness in working on its objectives or syncing to bring a successfully functioning team. And the final stage is the transforming stage, where the team is performing well and the members are feeling that they are the most successful team and they have achieved and accomplished the team mission, and it's time for them to set on the new goals. So if you can see from the figure here, in the forming stage, the chief characteristics are little agreements, unclear purpose, guidance and direction. And in the storming stage, we have conflicts, increased clarity of purpose, power struggles, and coaching. And in the norming stage, we have agreements and consensus, clear roles and responsibilities, and facilitation. And in the performing stage, we have clear vision and purpose, focus on goal achievement and delegation. And in the last stage, that is transforming or adjourning stage, that it is task completion, good feeling about achievement, and recognition. So understanding these stages is very important for in the direction of good team development. Again, when we say team development, every organization and in fact every team will have its own challenges, which becomes very important to identify if you have to move towards building a productive team. So what are the most important challenges in the context of non-profit organizations? If we see, the first one is investing adequate financial resources. So this is the most important challenge that most of the non-profit organizations are faced with. So many non-profit organizations identify a lack of unrestricted funds as one of the main barriers to organizational learning and development, which is the main strategy for a strong team development. And it is also difficult to raise funds for non-programmatic work, which comprises a major part of organizational learning and development, which is a strong base for team development. And this gets trapped because of cash. And the second important barrier in the context of non-profit organizations is in many of the overworked and under-resourced non-profit organizations, the most commonly identified unmet need concerning organizational learning and development is creating the space for learning, like allotting the time for learning and or prioritizing the time for learning apart from the work that we do in the organization. These, as I said, we have two studies. The first one is a study on team development in the context of community-based development, which is very, again, very important for us to understand. So this study was measuring teamwork and task work of community-based teams delivering life-saving health interventions in rural Zambia, and it was a qualitative study. So since 2008, a community-based project in rural Zambia teamed up community health workers and traditional birth attendants, supported by neighborhood health committees, to provide essential newborn and continuous curative care for children ranging from 0 to 59 months. And this paper makes an attempt to understand the process of developing a measure of teamwork for community-based health teams in rural Zambia. So this community-based project shows the feasibility and effectiveness of collaborating community health workers and traditional birth attendants to provide integrated community newborn care. So integration and collaboration plays a very important role in enhancing the team effectiveness, especially in a non-profit context because of lack of resources. And the rationale for collaboration was to close the gap in the continuum of care and increase the livelihood of team effectiveness to individual working. So when you integrate, obviously the effectiveness of team will always supersede the individual working. So the methodology that they adopted was they had six group sessions and pile sorting sessions with 3 neighborhood health committees and traditional birth attendants. And from this, they arrived at 17 factors which were identified by the participants, and that was considered as relevant for measuring teamwork in rural setting. And to explain team performance, they also identified 20 factors and assigned it into 3 subgroups, namely personal, community-related, and service-related. So we can see the processes and factors of teamwork here. So under processes, we have mutual performance monitoring, mutual trust, decision-making and planning, team cohesion, team motivation, goals and objectives, communication, conflict resolution or management. And under 17 factors, we have consulting each other, seeking help from each other, checking each other's work and giving feedback, confidentiality, respect, trust, making decisions together, making a plan together, dividing tasks so not to duplicate efforts, interest and commitment, members available and accessible, motivating each other, encouraging each other, having a common goal, good communication, sharing information, and ability to manage conflicts. So these 17 factors were identified by participants and were selected to measure teamwork. And these factors were further categorized as processes or dimensions of teamwork, and this constituted the teamwork construct, which was a tool that they constructed based on their research. And they also came out with determinants of teamwork. So they identified 20 factors as based on the importance given by the participants as determinants of teamwork. And these factors explain why teams engage in effective teamwork. What factors influences effectiveness of teamwork? And again, these factors were 20 factors were categorized into 3 subgroups: personal, community related, and service related. And all these 20 factors were used to assess the relationship between the level of team performance and the 3 categories of factors. So we can see the factors under each category. Under personal, we have age, gender, education, socioeconomic status, language, tribal affiliation, religion, employment, and members in an association. Under community related, we have presence of and links to neighborhood health communities, distance between community health workers and traditional birth attendant families, distance between community health workers and rural health center. And under service related, we have factors like training, experience, supervision and support by relevant community and health system structures, payment or in-kind compensation, motivation, availability of means of transport, possession of a cell phone, availability of various supplies and drugs that the community health workers and traditional birth attendants might need to provide the defined service. So this is a very important work in understanding how team effectiveness can be done productively in the in the context of community-based development. Moving on to the second study, this is a study on team development in the context of rural communities. And this is an international literature search and review of rural teamwork and team building center for rural health. So this study investigates healthcare teamwork in rural setting and the influence of rural setting on the effectiveness of teamwork. And it stresses the importance of interdisciplinary teamwork in rural contexts. Again, we can say that in rural contexts, there will be lack of resources, because of which to enhance the productivity, it becomes very important that you integrate various teams to perform so that they can function together on a particular project or towards a common goal. And interdisciplinary teamwork is claimed to involve greater sharing of goals, values, and competencies. And it is considered that there is a great need and potential for interdisciplinary teamwork in rural areas. And it also becomes important for organizations in the rural areas to identify informal support networks, which will be there in the rural community. And organization needs to be aware of this so that they can collaborate actively with such rural local networks. And there should also be broad and intersectoral memberships of the organization, which includes with the community organizations like police, council, schools, community volunteers, and so on. So collaboration helps to address the issues of scanty resources, which hamper team performance. And interdisciplinary training is very effective in enhancing team performance in the rural context. So these two studies I felt are really important in understanding the strategies of team development in the context of community development and rural communities. Okay, and coming to the important aspect of this session, strategies for team development in the nonprofit context. So it becomes important for every organization to understand that the needs of every organization and the conditions of the community environment is always different from organization to organization. So the approach to team development must be flexible and customized as per the organizational needs. It can't be uniform for every organization. So one size model doesn't fit, and even if we try, it yields ineffectual results. So the first phase of effective team development is to design an appropriate team development philosophy, which can be based on the organization's vision, the organization's mission, goals, or values. And this demands an understanding of team development, types of team that you want to work upon or develop, the purpose of teams. So what is the purpose? What objective are you working towards or targeting at? And the team development strategy. So what strategies do you think best suits your team as well as your organization? And after that, the first and the most important strategy that one needs to begin with is establishing a clear vision and a mission. So a clear vision and mission statement of an organization makes a good starting point for assessing the capacity and the need of the organization so that we can plan the strategies accordingly. And the clear vision and mission not only affects the programs and services offered by the organization, but it also influences the components of capacity building or team development strategies. So if you have a clear vision, based on the vision, you can have a well-defined strategies. For example, the vision and mission of an organization will attract and retain leaders who share similar goals. And the leader in turn will influence the setting in setting, maintaining, or redirecting the mission of the organization. And the second most important factor or the strategy that the organization needs to work on is managing ample resources. So resources are an essential and critical component of an effective team development strategy. And among the resources, the financial resources are the main aspect of the resource pool, as they can affect the recruitment of human resources, acquisition of physical space, which is a vital aspect of team development. And there should be periodic monitoring, evaluation, and feedback to assure that the organization is getting the most from its scarce resources. And the other very important strategy that the organization in the recent times are using is what is called as learning before, during, and after, which was put forward by Collison and Parcel in 2001. So the LBDA model is a knowledge management method with an explicit learning purpose that can be applied to any activity. So what do we do with this strategy is the main aim of LBDA is to avoid the reinvention of existing knowledge by creating knowledge assets, which can be accessed by anyone in the organization. You create, you document the knowledge assets, you store it, and you make sure that it is accessible to everyone in the organization. So this can be understood in 3 stages. Learning before is facilitated by shared understanding of who knows what in the organization or in the team, and by a process called peer assist. A meeting or workshop can be organized where people with experience and knowledge about an issue are invited to share their experience and knowledge with the team facing a particular challenge. For example, designing a project or planning a fundraising campaign. So somebody with a relevant experience in fundraising can arrange a meeting or a workshop where the person can highlight the strategies, effective strategies for fundraising. Excuse me. And the next one is learning during, which is done by a system of after action reviews, where the team is brought together after a specific event or a project to discuss what happened, why it happened, and how to thrive on strengths and work on weaknesses. So you consider both whatever was good about that a particular project or whatever did not work out better for that project, and then analyze why, how, and uh, plan for the future based on that. And learning after captures the learning reviews resulting in the agreement of specific actionable recommendations. So once you analyze why certain things were good or certain things were bad, then accordingly you can plan recommendable actions which can be taken care in the next project. And the other important strategy is called the learning workshops. So based on learning review part of the LBDA model, the organization WWF UK established a formal way of capturing learning through learning workshops. The learning workshops have shown great success in capturing the learning from the time-limited cross-functional teams, which are brought together for specific projects. So learning workshops are used as alternates by formally writing up lessons learned from the projects. So once a project is done, you document the learning from those projects, and this can be done by supplementing it with a video interview with the individuals and the group concerned. Or you can also arrange a video interview with the people or the team who worked for a particular project and discuss with them the learnings from the project. And the next important strategy is called communities of practice. So communities of practice or working fellowships of individuals, either within the organization or across several organizations, which are brought together by shared interest and tasks such as community outreach, fundraising, etc. So in this strategy, people come together to share know-how, the knowledge that they have, to work on improving the competencies of each member, to develop and evaluate good practices, to foster innovative ideas, and to support collaboration towards a common goal. They may meet face-to-face at regular intervals, or it can also be virtual. And the next important strategy is called as action learning. So action learning sets the mechanism for using an action learning approach. It is a strategy of creating small groups of fixed memberships, say 5 to 8 people or 10 people in a group. And these members can be from the same organizations or several organizations where all of them have similar competencies or involved in similar type of tasks. And they may be self-managing, or they can have a facilitator who will lead the group. So what do members do? Members work on a framework for learning in terms of number of meetings, where, for how long, etc. And they also decide on how to evaluate progress and so on. And they can also decide on the topics that they want to cover through this group sessions for action learning. And members also meet to discuss live issues or problems each individual is experiencing at work, or members can begin by establishing ground rules, shape perception about the issues, support members, and review progress. And action learning has again proven to be very successful, and members have reported significant revelatory learning from this strategy. And the other strategy that is followed in the nonprofit organization is called learning teams. So it's a popular strategy, especially in the large NGOs, where they established small learning and development teams to coordinate and support learning across the organization. For example, the organization Save the Children UK, it has established a policy and learning team that brings together learning and training on issues related to child rights, diversity, learning, and impact assessments. So learning and development teams will lead the organizational processes to assess, learn from, and improve the organization program activities. In small organizations that cannot invest in a specific learning and development team, organizational learning is often allocated to an individual program learning advisor. And in very small organization, an individual with other responsibilities may be expected to lead organizational learning. Maybe they can take terms periodically and do that. And a very important factor, or again a strategy in the nonprofit context, is creating the space for learning. I'd mentioned this earlier under barriers. So everyone needs a space to reflect on their work and to get exposure to new ideas. Space for learning can be understood in two ways. The first is space needed for both individual and collective learning. And the second one is formal and informal learning. So how do you create this space? So the space for formal learning can be done through HR processes like induction, supervision, appraisal, individual monitoring arrangements, and knowledge exchange. And space for group learning can be created by organizing trainings, workshops, conferences, and meetings. And informal learning space can be created by introducing no travel time, home weeks, reflection time, where they can just sit and reflect upon their learnings, providing a physical space for informal networking, and creating discussion forums, publishing newsletters, and having intranets in the organization. And many nonprofit organizations have identified the importance of learning space and have identified places and times in the organization's calendar and management process where learning can have the greatest impact. So that again has to be planned based on the organization needs, space, and availability of time for each team. And the other most important strategy is creating SMART goals for every team. So SMART goals are the new mantra for team development and effectiveness. Goals should be shared, it should be specific, it should be measurable, and it should be, most importantly, achievable, relevant, and timely. Such goals inspire the team to action by giving them intrinsic motivation to complete the task. All expectations must be clearly stated and should ensure a clear understanding of it by the team members. So team members should be made to understand the reason for the creation of specific team goals. And CAR affirms that team goals should be specific enough to give the team clear directions as well as stating the ends rather than the means. This gives teams the freedom to work out how best to achieve the goals. And the other most important strategy which works amazingly in any organization for that matter is team bonding sessions. So teams are most likely to develop and perform well when team works in cohesion. This is because good teamwork creates synergy, where the combined effect of the team is greater than the sum of the individual efforts. So working together well as a team can create a space for individual perspectives, diverse ideas and experience, skills to solve complex problems, and strategies that may go beyond the scope of any one individual. So as an organization or as a team leader, it becomes very important that we ensure that these factors are taken care in every team. And team bonding sessions can be established through team outings, social calendars where you celebrate important social milestones like maybe birthdays or other things, celebrating personal and team achievements, personal milestones, and special days like team lunch, etc. And the other important aspect, which is again very important for any organization, is good leadership. All teams need a capable, fair, and a visionary leader who can manage internal and external relations of team and orient them towards their goal. And Livy says that team needs a quality leader to assist team members when problems and conflicts occur. And a progressive leader should work towards creating organizational environments that trigger growth, performance, and development. And a good leader should create a culture of trust, support, and safety. And by doing this, one can minimize social loafing, which is present when individuals avoid or contribute less than their optimal effort. And other very important strategy, especially in the present time, is collaborative culture. Dysfunctional teams exist within a dysfunctional culture. An authoritative culture creates allegiances as everyone feels controlled. So this creates mistrust and conflict. So high-performing teams are quite the opposite of this. And the leader is more a facilitator than a controller. And collaborative culture also provides necessary collaborative tools for the team to make decisions, solve problems, and create a plan. And by removing himself or herself as a decision maker, the leader creates the foundation for a highly functional and high performance team. And the other important strategy and a tool for a strong team development is communication. And when we say communication, what is very important is having that clear communication with your team members, especially when it comes to providing feedback with respect to the work that they deliver with regard to a particular project or every project, in fact. So feedback should be fair, objective, progressive, and rewarding. And good work or performance should be appreciated and rewarded. And there should be established procedures for rewards like awards, letters of appreciation, certificates, etc., as it is important to make team members feel valued and appreciated to boost team performance and achievement. And communication, we should also have clear channels of communication so that this gives the team members the opportunity to express their views and ideas. And effective team development involves established method of feedback mechanism, which is again very, very important. There should be periodic feedback sessions for individuals and the team, and maybe for it can be for each project, or it can be for each task, or it can be periodic, or it can be done at the important stages of a project or a task. And feedback should be, I think it's repeated, sorry. Okay. So these are the most important strategies that are followed for good team development in the non-profit context. So with this, we can move on with a small video that shows the importance of teamwork for anyone for the matter.
Smarter to travel in groups.
So to conclude, I would like to say that developing an effective team involves efforts, time, planning, resources, and impactful strategies. And it requires nurturing, mentoring, coaching, and facilitating. Done correctly, one can have a team that becomes an asset to the organization, and great teams can attract and retain the right people and individuals who can go on to become great leaders, which is an essential requirement for nonprofit organizations to thrive and succeed in the long run. So these are some the references, and here we end. Thank you.